Do forgive me if I hiccup during this video. I gobbled down my lunch a bit too quick. I'm a greedy bastard, what can I say? So there seems to be a little confusion because everywhere I go online, social media, Facebook, etc., Twitter, I get people calling me a Ramona, completely ignoring the fact, and I state this fact to them regularly, that I actually voted to leave the European Union. Now, I didn't vote to leave the EU because of immigrants or something, or because I hate foreigners. I voted to leave the EU because it is a capitalist, neoliberal enterprise that allows nations to exploit working classes freely across Europe. That's why I voted to leave the EU primarily. But wherever I go and whenever I criticise the current government's implementation of Brexit, of the EU referendum result, I get people calling me a Ramona, etc., etc. It's rubbish. I voted to leave the European Union. In fact, I'm in favour of a hard Brexit. And let me tell you why. Because throughout history, the working class in this country have been downtrodden, beaten to the ground, made to pick up the tab for the rich man's failures and for the rich man's losses. It's happened throughout the ages. In Victorian times, we were made to go up chimneys, send our kids up chimneys and work the builders' jobs and all the shitty jobs we've got for pennies, like 5p a week or something stupid. We've been made throughout the ages to build the factories and to work in them. We were made during and after the Second World War to live on rations because the rich man in his government office spent all the money that the country had on war. Now, whether you think that war was justified or not is of a whole other discussion. Personally, I do think it was a justifiable war, probably the only justifiable war in British history. But we were made to survive on rations because there was no money to feed us, because they spent all the money arming themselves, preparing themselves and waging a war against Hitler. So throughout history, the working man and the working class in this country has been downtrodden, beaten down, made to pay the way or pay for the losses of the rich man. When the banks collapsed in 2008, and then we saw, 2 years later, we saw a Tory-led coalition government come in, and what was the first thing they did? They said to us, the poor working people, from the working class up to the middle classes, you're going to have to pay for that. You're going to have to pick up the tab and pay the entire bill. And this is why we've had 9 years now of crippling austerity, nearly a decade, where we've seen people told they were fit to work despite being terminally ill. My own grandfather had throat cancer and he went into an interview with no voice box, just a little button that he used to press so he could speak, and they told him he could work. We've had 9 years of homeless people freezing to death in the streets. We had a man the other week who froze to death literally outside Parliament. So for generations upon generations and years upon years, the working class has been beaten down, persecuted and made to pay the tab. What's going to change in the event of a no-deal Brexit? Now, I don't think for a second that a no-deal Brexit is going to be all fine and dandy and rosy and it's all going to be okay, and it's all going to be okay. Not for a second. However, I also don't think that it's going to be as bad as some people are making it out to be, saying that there's going to be traffic jams 10 miles long on the M25 and the planes are going to fall out of the sky and the computer systems are all going to crash and that there's going to be no food and no water and they're going to have to send out the army to deliver food and water. Personally, I don't think it's going to be that bad. Okay, the government has had 2-3 years to prepare for this scenario. And as incompetent as this Tory government is, I don't think that they would have done all this, they would have gone this far without putting in some implementation, some sort of plan to make sure the transition from a Brexit, from a UK in the EU to a UK out of the EU with no deal, that doesn't go smoothly, you know. So I don't think it'll be that bad. I think that's largely just paranoia and a lot of fear about what's going to happen if we leave the EU without a Brexit deal. Personally, I don't think it'd be great. I think there will be a lot of losses and stuff, but as usual, the poor will be made to pay the buck, and what else is new? We're always made to pay the tab. We're always made to pick up poor man's mistakes and clear it. So what will happen then? Well, we'll crash out of the EU in March, no deal, which is looking increasingly likely actually. And eventually, once we realise that, hang on, we're paying for this, hang on, we're the ones that are being made to pay for this Tory government's fuck up about Brexit, then eventually the British public will lose all confidence in the Tory party, and then we will have a general election by, I'd say, 2020 at the earliest. Labour landslide with an absolute whopping majority, and the Tories will consign themselves to electoral oblivion for at least a generation, because they promised 15.7 million voters, I believe it was, that voted to leave the European Union, myself included, that they would do this well, that they would pull this off, that everything would be okay, even if there was no deal. In fact, remember that famous tagline, no deal is better than a bad deal? Well, the Tories have fucked up so badly, we now got Theresa May saying to us, you have to take my bad deal in case you get no deal. So the Tories have made a monumental hash of this. Nobody can deny that, not even the most die-hard Tory voter in the most remote corner of Cornwall can pretend that they've done well. They have completely fudged it, completely botched it. And I never believed for a second, in fact I do regret voting to leave the European Union, because immediately after, the morning after, when I heard that we'd won, that was when my brain started to think, oh fuck, we've just handed this to the Tories. The party who is either going to monumentally fuck it, or the party who is going to just do it so it benefits their rich friends and nobody else. Which is exactly what they've done. They've done the first option and just fucked it completely. So the Tories will consign themselves to electoral oblivion. So that is why I'm all in favour of a no-deal Brexit. Bring it the fuck on. Because then, in the next year or so, when the working classes and the people of this country, who for some reason seem complacent and seem willing to just allow the Tories to ravage their country, as long as they've got some immigrants and some refugees to complain about. At the minute, there's this air of complacency and this air of blasé attitude in the working classes, and even up to the middle classes, where they just don't care that people are freezing to death outside Parliament. They just don't care that people are being deemed fit to work. As long as they've got some tabloids to read and get angry about some shit, some transgender fucking lessons in school or some immigrants, as long as they've got the X Factor to watch, they don't seem to care. But eventually after Brexit and after people start to realise, hang on, this government is fucking shit, then we will see a Labour landslide. Whether that'll be Corbyn or not, I don't know. Personally, to me, it's starting to look more and more like Corbyn will be gone by the time we see another general election, because his stance on Brexit is just as shit as the stance of the Tories. And that's down to his famous historic Euroscepticism. He's always been anti-EU. Since the day he became an MP, probably even before. Why? Because his mentor Tony Benn was anti-EU. His mentor Tony Benn led a campaign against joining the EU in the first place, for the very same reason that I told you at the start of this video that I voted to leave the EU. But Corbyn, of course, became the leader of the Labour Party, and the Labour Party is largely Remain, so he had to compromise and take a stance of Remain on behalf of his party. So that's why his attitude towards Brexit is a bit wobbly, because he doesn't really know how to compromise his personal views and the views of his party on this matter. So whether it's him who leads the Labour government into the next election, who knows? I very much doubt, or Theresa May has claimed that she will not lead the Tories into another election. But with the Tories, they lie through the fucking skin of their keeth. So who knows? I mean, we could see Emily Thornberry, anyone, Keir Starmer at the head of the Labour Party. I could deal with that. I could tolerate Emily Thornberry. She's okay as well. Anyone but Chuka Umunna. Fuck that Blairite prick. He might as well just go and join the Tory party. Ideally, my ideal candidate for the Labour leadership would be Dennis Skinner, but he, of his own admission, is far too old now. And that's why he turned down the offer to stand for the left wing of the Labour Party in the leadership election in which Jeremy Corbyn won. He was too old. So, that's it. why I support a no-deal Brexit. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.